Hello, this is Ewout de Kok, co-founder and CEO of Feedback Fruits, and I am presenting today about student engagement from a chapel, my COVID working space. I will talk about how we can enhance student engagement in online courses with the use of pedagogical technology. But before I do that, I just want to share a reflection. COVID has made a problem that was already there just more painful. Our traditional way of teaching, even on campus, is non-engaging at all. Doing that traditional way of learning online breaks people's motivation. And this needs to change. We know this. However, there's a challenge. First of all, we need to understand, where do we need to change it to? How does this new normal look like? Even if COVID, hopefully as soon as possible, is just becoming a new a form of flu that we are resistant against and we can go back to campuses. I don't think that there will be a few late majority teachers that will go back to the traditional model and be happy about it. However, I think there's a big shift from teachers that start realizing the old normal is becoming the new normal. But how exactly does that new normal look? And if you know how this looks, more engaging, more group work, more interactions, different type of learning activities, then how are you going to organize this properly? All right, this is where we start with the opportunities. Online learning is an opportunity to rethink course design. It is trying to come up with learning methods, asynchronous and synchronous learning methods that work, that we know work to increase student engagement. And because this sudden shift and because the high need for student engagement at the moment, this is the perfect time to experiment with new methods. And when I mean new methods, these are methods that are proven and are working, however, are new to most teachers. And this is where Feedback Fruits wants to contribute. Feedback Fruits is an EdTech company from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, that builds pedagogical tooling to support engaging learning activities. Activities like peer feedback, expert groups, discussion assignments, interactive study materials, but even synchronous activating learning activities like team-based learning, for example. And we want to be a catalyst in the process that happens at an institution, moving away from that traditional type of learning to a much more engaging type of learning activities. And I'm not going to talk about all those technology right now, because that's not what the purpose is of this session. The purpose of this session is showing you an approach that we as a company have towards solving this problem, which is unique. We call this the do tank. Because if we talk about this transition from traditional passive learning to much more different type of engagement, engaging learning activities, we have to understand that we will move away from a traditional one-size-fits-all model to not a new one-size-fits-all model, but to much more diverse type of learning activities. And we also have to understand that most of the pedagogies used in those learning activities are not new. They are already proven. However, they are hard to organize them at scale. And this is where technology can help. The technological revolution that we can say that has improved a lot of sectors around the world has left untouched, in our opinion, the higher educational sector still. And why is this? Because in our opinion, most of the technology that was built wasn't built with the purpose of improving the pedagogy. That wasn't called pedagogical technology. They referred to it as EdTech because it was technology you could use in education to better organize courses, to better register for exams, to better take exams. But let's face it, these are things around the core process. This is about managing the core process. It's not about the pedagogy. And 7 years ago, when we started here in the Netherlands, we made the call that we do not want to be this one-day fly, have this one tool that does one thing right and then try to sell that everywhere around the world. No, what we imagined that higher education needed was a company that was continuously innovating the boundaries, and not by itself, but in co-creation with higher education. Because if we take higher education as an industry, it's an industry that is full of researchers, that is full of people trying new stuff and actually full of knowledge, so to say. However, higher institutions of higher education are not software companies, right? So if we as Feedback Fruits could help translate these existing methods that we know are working into technology such that all of a sudden it becomes easy for a lot of teachers to use it, we are accelerating that transition that we're after as a sort of catalyst. But that requires us as Feedback Fruits, one, to collaborate with these innovators. We call them, we do this in a concept called the do tank. So there's a lot of knowledge, there's a lot of thoughts already there. However, translating that knowledge into practical technology that can make teachers take that step from, hey, that's a nice idea, or hey, cool, to, whoa, how would this work in my learning management system? How would this work in my Canvas course, in my Blackboard course, in my Brightspace course, or whatever? That's what we're doing. We're trying to make that gap. We try to bridge that gap between pedagogies that are improved, that we know work, to actually making them land into the majority of courses. And the way we do this is through that do tank. And that do tank is a method in where we have this agile method in where it's very disciplined, in where we search for these pedagogies, these learning activities that we have proven to be very engaging. One, two, to have had a positive effect on the student outcomes. And then we work together with these professors to think through those use cases and build the technology to support them. What we then do, our logo is a fruit basket. What we envision is a fruit basket of different types of tools that is enriched with fresh fruits constantly. And those fresh fruits are the fruits that are pushing the boundaries of that innovation, that are trying to path that way away from the traditional learning to much more diverse type of activating learning activities. Now let's come up with some examples. Take the example that we co-created with MIT, and where we took the concept of case studies, which is known to be very engaging and result in better learning outcomes, and we made it possible for online courses to perform that type of learning activities. Together with John Liu, professor at MIT, we co-created specifically that use case. Another use case is a co-creation that we've done with Wageningen University here in the Netherlands. It's an innovative concept called participation grading, and where you don't grade all the participation of a student because that makes a learning environment unsafe. And what you're after is searching for a safe learning environment. But instead, ask students to come up with their best contribution that then gets graded, which results in students that are going to make their first contribution their best contribution, which makes that level of engagement and the quality of engagement all of a sudden to rise tremendously. Or take team-based learning. Everyone is aware, I think that the ones that are far in their pedagogical knowledge are aware of what team-based learning is. But the teachers that did that because they saw the effect from their students. But they did it with a lot of sacrifices, because they had to do this with some Excel sheets and some emails, and it was a lot of work for them. So with the business school IE in Madrid, we co-created technology to support specifically that use case. And when we're talking about pushing that boundary, right, coming with fresh fruits that can really improve pedagogies and student engagement, then AI is a new type of fruit, so to say, that can help us improve student engagement. So together with Erasmus University, Rotterdam, we are co-creating new AI technology in where we build up an engine that can be used in a couple of ways. The first use case is not necessarily to increase student engagement, but it is to reduce the time that teachers spend on reviewing, such that that time can be used for teachers to engage with their students more on not the lower order skills, lower order conversations around how you should write something or how you should reference, or whether or not there has been a right references to a table within a paper, but really about that higher order knowledge from student assignments. So free up time. So this AI tool, we call automated feedback, is a tool that automatically gives feedback to students on how on the academic writing of draft assignments. So students hand in their draft assignments, they get feedback on the automated feedback on it right away, and they can use that to improve how assignments are written, which then increases the quality of those assignments and reduces the effort that teachers need to spend reviewing it. So this has been a successful collaboration with Rotterdam, with Erasmus University. But what we've done, we've built an engine, an AI engine that we can use in much more ways. One of the ways that I want to sort of bring you with, and then looking at the future, is based on a design criteria that we have actually founded this company on. And that is that digitalization of education should lead to more and better, as in deeper, human interaction. So what if there is a course design in where students are asked to give feedback on each other's work before class, then come to class in smaller groups and discuss the feedback, which is known to be a successful way to improve learning. What if we would use AI during that asynchronous before class moment in where students give each other feedback? Use that same engine to help students formulate their feedback better, help students to better express their logic, and help students to make deeper insights while giving that feedback. Then when students have reflected on the feedback that they have received, which is of better quality, the likeliness of that discussion that will then happen during class to be of a much deeper level and much more insightful, and doesn't feel like it's a fourth thing that I should do. Oh, I'm now in a group work. I need now to discuss this. And it stays on this sort of, it's on the surface, the discussion. We are able to bring that discussions into the deep, trigger people with the feedback that has been given, and really and start into working with the knowledge. And that is what you need, right? Is active learning. Engagement is so successful because you need students to be able to work with that knowledge and really get triggered to do so. Because when they do, this is when it transmits from your short-term memory into your long-term memory because of brain plasticity, right? So we need that active thinking. We need that students challenge themselves and each other on it. But for that deeper discussion to take place, AI can help. For example, in that peer feedback assignment. I guess I want to conclude by saying Feedback Fruits has been founded with a core mission to help in the transition from that traditional type of learning to engaging type of learning designs. The ones that we know right now, but also push the boundaries to ones that we don't know right now, but will really help improve course design. And I always use as an example, as a comparison, the internet, right, and websites. The first website that was out there was called Innovative. It took us 15 minutes to find out how late that shop was opened, which was great, because if you had to go there and come back, it would have cost me 1.5 hours. However, at this stage, if we look at that website, then it's a pain. It's painful. It's a painful experience. But once we call this innovation, we will have the similar thing with course design. However, we are still at that beginning moment, at the wild west of course design, at that making these first steps. But there is so much ahead that we don't know of. So this is why we have connected the top institutions around the world within the Do Tank, hoping to find and to actually shape that future instead of letting that future shape us. If you want to know more about specifically the Do Tank or the existing tooling, then of course you can find a bit more on feedbackfruits.com, more information. And if you want to know specific use cases that we did, or if you have ideas yourself, if you as an institution refer to yourself as a front runner, an innovator, then we should definitely talk. Because we are connecting all the innovators together in order to push the boundaries. And we're connecting with regular institutions, if I may call it like that, to help them speed up their improvements by picking those innovations that we have co-created in the Do Tank. I want to thank you very much for your time. And I hope you found this session useful. You can contact me if you have any questions at ewout@feedbackfruits.com, Ewout with a D. And thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye-bye.